Welcome to Awakening Mindfulness at Work, a conversation that matters. I'm Pierre
And I'm Sarah Killeen. We are bringing to you conversations and practices to cultivate presence, calm, and balance in the workplace.
So let's begin right here, right now.
It's a new day, a new episode. And something interesting happened in my life very recently, Pierre. It's that I'm seeing quotes in some places, and then my brain is turning them into quotes apply to the workplace. Maybe it's because of this wonderful project and this journey that we're on. But it happens quite a lot. And there's this quote that I read a few days ago that I thought would be great to discuss. So the quote that I did read was from John Steinbeck, wonderful, American writer, and he wrote, "To be alive is to be alive at all is to have scars. To be alive at all is to have scars." And by itself, that could be a complete episode, right? And we're talking about that as well with mindfulness and all the work that we're doing around emotions as well. But what came up for me in the moment when I read that quote was, to grow at all is to make mistakes. Kind of applying that quote to the workplace, and to grow at all is to make mistakes is what came up for me. And this directly relates to the growth mindset. This directly relates to quite a few mindsets and tools and techniques that we are teaching about. And I thought that would be a wonderful way to bring it to the podcast, to discuss the importance of acknowledging and appreciating mistakes for what they are. I think this culture, we're quick to label something as a failure as well. And failure is quite a harsh word. So can we reframe that into something that will be a vehicle for growth? So that's the topic I'd like to bring to the podcast today. And I know you're very passionate about that, so I'm sure you have a lot to say. Um, but yeah, to be alive at all is to have scars, which is a topic in itself. And to grow at all is to make mistakes, which is very needed. So what do you think? Where are we going with those ones?
Where should we go? Yeah. Yeah, there's many places to go from here. I really like the first version of it. To be alive is to have scars. Yeah, and I think this for me this does many different things. First, it in a way it normalizes scars, and scars meaning the challenges that we face, the times when we feel hurt, the times when things don't work and we have disappointment. Um, so it kind of normalizes that this is okay. This is part of being human. And it's in a way not just normalize it, this idea of saying to be alive. So it's not just normalize it, is also taking it to the point of that is the core of our life here, is to experience things, and therefore to experience all of it, including the hurt, and that is aliveness. Um, and that is what we're grateful for, that we're here. We're here and we are living our life and trying to make a contribution in some way.
Mm. Yes, I love that. And I really like actually that you took the direction for now of the original quote. Because it's a topic that's very dear to my heart, is how can you almost alchemize, heartache, headache and heartache into something, into actually love towards yourself and compassion and kindness, so that you actually end up being a better person than if you had not had the heartache and the physical ache and the
Mm,
mental ache in the first place. And there's so many stories out there of people saying, that what a lot of people would qualify the worst thing that could happen to them was actually the best thing that could happen to them, past the initial
mm,
shock. And of course it's when something there's very often grief, when something really unfortunate happens to us, and challenges, whether it's in our personal lives or at work.
Mm-hmm.
It's at first it is a shock, if it's something that's not exactly what we wanted. How can we create meaning? And it's not necessarily find meaning, because very often in the moment there is no meaning. It's really difficult to see any meaning. But how can we create meaning from this, so that the the future version of us, looks back and says, that was so precious. Not that was nice, or that was good, or I enjoyed that, but that was so precious. That was so precious, because if I hadn't gone through that, and maybe even if it hadn't been that hurtful and painful, I would not have had the chance and the opportunity to learn how to really take care of myself, and to
Yeah.
learn how to be kind to myself and to others, and to look at life differently, and to stand for different
Mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a really good aspect you're bringing on, Sarah, which is during that time when the difficulty is happening, especially if it's a big one, um, it's hard to see the other side. And this is where, a call for a belief that there will be another side, and that life is much bigger, and that belief and that trust that there will be another side, and that this will pass, that is what can keep us going in those
Mm,
moments. So yes, they are difficult. We may not be able to see what's beyond, but we know there will be something beyond. So
mm,
just keeping that and reminding ourselves of that.
mm,
And another thought that came up is back to the to be alive is to have scars. Is this really brings up this practice that we do in the mindfulness journey, which is the allowing of unpleasant feelings to be, instead of going in the direction of they shouldn't be, I shouldn't feel this way, I shouldn't have this hurt, and trying to fix it or avoid it or suppress it, which is takes it to a whole different scale and makes it much harder. So by accepting that to be alive is to have scars, that makes getting scars, that kind of give permission for getting scars, and makes it a little easier to allow the scars to be.
mm,
Yeah, so it is anyway reminding me of our practice that we do in
mm.
the mindfulness journey.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's very healing. And what you were saying before about belief, yes, it's even more than the belief. It's a mindset. It's a set of beliefs. It's a way we look at the
Mhm.
world. Really, it's a worldview. But to go back to what you just said now, I think this might be especially helpful for those of us who are a little bit perfectionist. There's this idea of, life, we should be perfect, or life should be perfect and polished. And if we take all the right steps, we won't fall, we won't have any scars, we won't get injured. The an ideal life, an optimized life, the best, the perfect life, then won't won't involve getting hurt, getting scars, falling, emotionally, physically, mentally. um and we all know that's not how life works. It's a world that's ever changing, and life is ever changing,
Mhm.
and that is
Mhm.
not just the law of the universe. That is just not how life works. So, like you're saying, allowing scars to be there, and recognizing them not just as something that's a collateral damage, but actually a proof that life was lived. is a wonderful way to welcome the messy and the messiness and the imperfection of life. So yes, that's also what I liked a lot in this quote in the first place.
Mm, mm,
And then I think the reason why then the kind of the work, the work parallel came to my mind when I read it was that, how in certain workplaces it is really hard to just be fully welcoming whatever is happening in the workplace, because we have, very often we're playing a certain role. We have certain, we have to respect certain guidelines and rules, and we're wearing different hats, and we
mhm,
might not be able to express necessarily what we're feeling or what we're thinking, and we have to stay a little bit in control. um, and when something happens that we're not proud of, or that we had not, expected, and maybe something that is actually a mistake or something we could have done better, um, it is so important to be able to try to, again, create meaning out of it. So welcoming it, accepting it for what it is, trying to hold it with as much kindness as possible in the moment, and be able to reframe it. So we can only do that growth mindset piece and trying to create meaning out of something and actually grow from it if we are welcoming the situation in the first place, like you were saying. So yes, I think being alive is growing as well. Those two are very interrelated. I mean, if we're not growing, we're dying. If we look outside at the
mm.
natural world, a plant, or if it's not growing, it's dying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you just touched, Sarah, on a topic we probably want to come back to and focus on it in a whole episode, which is that how do we show up in the workplace, and this idea that we there are so many factors or reasons why we can't fully show up. We can't show our inner, what's going on for us inside, our emotions, our thoughts, our, so how do we reconcile that? How can we be there, still be authentic, and yet know that we may not be able to fully disclose our whole internal experience. So how do we manage it? How do we work through it respectfully, respecting ourselves, and yet being able to work with the outside world and being effective with the outside world? So I think I made a note of it. So we'll come back to it because it's such a unique and important topic. And back to the growth mindset and the scars and the mistakes. It also made me think of John Kabat-Zinn's book, which is The Full Catastrophe Living. I don't know if you haven't, for our listeners, if you haven't checked it out, it's a big, thick book, but it's an amazing kind of compilation of the work of John Kabat-Zinn. And for those who may not have stumbled upon John's work, he's one of the thought leaders in the mindfulness space. Yeah, so the full catastrophe living, which means living all of it. It's we don't have the luxury to just pick the happy things and the good things. It doesn't work that way. So, and actually, the things that appear to be difficult and causing scars, this is where a lot of learning and growing can happen. As you mentioned earlier, Sarah, like after the fact, we realize what happened and what how much we grew out of it and so forth. So yeah, it's the full thing, the full thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I think just something to be still to be aware of, as like you just said, very often it happens afterwards, because it is really hard in the moment, and there might be extremely unpleasant emotions, especially if, if there's a mistake, if there's a catastrophe. um there might be shame, there might be guilt, there might be those extremely painful emotions. And so in the moment, what needs to be done is not, force ourselves into trying to reframe what's happening when we're so in the midst of it. It's this, again, this trying to be as kind as possible to ourselves, and trying to self-regulate, right? Trying to just calm down from the just maybe the emotional charge of the situation, so that we can get to a place when maybe we can go into reframing and trying to grow and create meaning. But in the moment, when that catastrophe hits, when it feels like a disaster, or our world is shattered in the moment, we need to focus on ourselves first, and on taking care of ourselves first, and that includes um, being tender with our emotions, and that is
Mhm.
that is
Mhm.
a complete other topic as well, that I'm sure we'll be speaking about again. But all that to say, there is no, there is no pace. There is no. It's not a quick, easy. I'm feeling horrible. This thing happened. It's terrible. Oh, I'm supposed to find meaning. I'm supposed to create meaning out of this now, and I'm supposed to find how to grow from this. There is a moment of just digesting it, right? Integrating, digesting, and then connecting the dots. When you're ready to do so.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you. Thank you. And I don't know if this is the time to have a closing comment, Sarah, but I'll try one and then you can add yours as you see fit. So the one that came to mind, those moments where we're experiencing those scars, yes, they can be overwhelming and difficult. However, with in ongoing mindfulness practices and having trained our nervous system to notice, to know, to step back, if we've done the homework, those moments are going to be a lot more digestible. So instead of being, a huge deal and we suffer, they're going to still be unpleasant and they will be suffering, but they will be a lot more workable. So that's my closing comments.
And I'd go even further, is in those moments there are actually more wounds than scars, right? In the moment when we're in the fire of it,
Mm,
it's still a wound. It's a wound. And then our practice, and like you're saying, all those different practices and tools that we have will speed up the healing process, so that then the beautiful scar can be there. Um, Otherwise we might end up just having wounds, carrying around wounds and wounds and wounds. So the mindfulness practices heal. They speed up the healing process, and they help us have scars, which is being alive. That'd be my closing comment, closing comment, closing comment. That's what I wanted to say. So thank you everyone for listening, and hopefully you go out and make some scars today.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.